Good afternoon, CAD fans. So we have left off with our depth gauge where we've managed to create the parts and we've managed to assemble it using those insert constraints, and with the insert constraint you'll still get a little degree of movement because we've only given it one constraint, so we've not locked it into multiple orientations, so we've not stopped it moving in the X, Y and Z direction. So next bit would be to have a look at creating the drawings for these, which is the thing that we use in the workshop all the time. We can't just take a picture of our depth gauging on a screen. It's not got the measurements, we don't know how big to make it, etc, etc. So when we produce a drawing, just like most other things, we're going to go File, New, and we are going to, in that metric folder, but this time we're going to scroll down, not to the parts, not to the assemblies, we're going to go down to the drawing command, and we're looking for this one called iso.idw. So there is one that looks similar, which is a DWG, but because we're in Inventor, we'll do it as an Inventor drawing in this occasion. So we'll double click on that, and we get a blank version of our drawing sheet. So we've got our border, we've got our title block with the information that is held within the title block, and we see that just in the command for sheet 1 over here. So we've got the default border. If we didn't want that, we could delete that just by right clicking and clicking delete. Obviously we want it in this case, and same for the title block in there as well. So we get the text which are going to go in there, and hopefully we'll get to the stage this video of changing that. So we've now got the design by, which says your name. You can put someone else in the group for the check by and the engineer approved by, but we'll be able to fill lots of these boxes in as we get through it. So let's have a look at how we start this then. So when we do a drawing, the first thing we're going to do is put a base view into our drawing. So we've said all along that on the toolbar it's usually the left hand tool which is used first or most often, and that's the kind of case here as well. So we'll go base. Now it's wanting us to tell it which file we want in order to produce the base view of. Now you'll have your drawing in front of you here, and we're actually going to start working on the right hand side, and there's a reason which I'll explain as we go through. So I'm going to click on the little folder icon because I want to open an existing file, and I'm going to go for the gauge body, this bit that we've made by drilling the holes, then kind of cutting into it and removing some of the lines in order to leave this quite bizarre kind of shape. So we'll go open, and that's going to put our base view in, and if you just move your mouse around, it's going to start adding some extra views of your shape here. Now the problem we've got is the drawing standards that we use in different countries are slightly different, and before we can start adding anything like that, we need to just change something which is really important, which again it's a little bit too early to talk about that in the course, but we'll get to go. So I'm just going to press cancel there for the moment. I'm going to go up to manage, and I'm going to click on the one but kind of underneath, which is called the styles editor. Now we've got two different drawing formats that we use throughout the world, and that is in first angle orthographic projection and in third angle orthographic projection. Now in the UK we use the third angle orthographic projection view when we produce drawings, whereas if we're in, let's say, America, they might use the first angle orthographic view. So what we need to do is just click on this one which says standard, and we're looking for this one that says default standard. So again, if it's not open at the moment, you might just need to use the little plus button in order to see it. And if we go on to view preferences, we can see that we've got two different projection types. Now again, I'll explain in the lessons a little bit more about what these mean, but what we need to do is just select third angle in this case, and we're going to press save and close. We're actually going to come back to the styles editor after we've finished, just to change a few more options, but rather than waylay with lots and lots of information, we'll just press save and close. So although it looks like it's not done anything, it's actually set this up slightly differently now. So we'll go back to place views, we'll go base, and like we did before, we'll pick out our gauge body, and it'll put the front view in. And we've not really spoken so much about this little cube that was in when you were making parts, but this is where it's really important. I'm hoping that there's one of the parts that we put in which is not quite right, and then we can kind of explain why that is. So I'm going to move upwards, and I'm going to click again. So at the moment it's put a front view on there. This is going to be our top view. and then if I just move backwards and to the sides, this one will then put a side view of our object onto the page. Now it looks a little bit small on the page at the moment, and I think we can probably get a little bit bigger if we were to scale it. So I'm just going to go down, I'm going to change it to 2:1, and I think 2:1 is going to be okay. This is all going to fit on this right hand side. There's actually something else which is going to go on the left hand side. So at the moment I'm just going to press OK. Now the three views that are on there, the top view and the side view are always governed by the position of this front view, and you can see if I try and move that around, the top view has to be in line and the side view has to be in line at all times on this page, so they'll kind of follow it around as you go. So we're just going to shuffle these just so we can get it a bit more into the kind of position that we want it on this page, and I'm just using the drawing that I've got in front of me just to try and determine whereabouts I'm going to position it. Now you're not set in stone, you can kind of move it whenever you want, but just trying to set it up at the moment to be something a little bit like where we want. So we've got those views on there then, and obviously now we need to put a few dimensions on there, but we do that using the annotate key just up here, and we're just going to go to dimension in order to add those. Now there's no right and wrong answer in which way you do this. Okay, it doesn't really matter. When you put a dimension on, you'll notice that sometimes it jumps to a certain position. It'll go kind of like a dashed line rather than a solid. Sometimes that's very useful for spacing measurements out. In some cases you're trying to put so much information on there, you may just need to click where you want to put it instead. Now as you select a measurement, you're always going to get this box come in, and 9 times out of 10 you are just going to press OK and get rid of it so you can put your next measurement on. Now we've got some features on here which are holes, which would have been used or done using the hole command, or in fact this one has, this one may not have, and we'll see in a moment the difference. If I go to hole and thread here and just click on this top one, this one says we've got a diameter of 4.20 and it's got the word through after it because it's going through the whole object. Now this is the engineering abbreviation for the word through all when we drill. So if we were drilling all the way through, THRU would be what we saw on an engineering drawing. So I'm just going to place that down for the moment. Now you're probably looking at it doesn't quite look right because this one's at an angle and the one that I want is straight. We'll sort that out in a moment. Now if I go to hole and thread again for this one, now I know for a fact when we made this part we didn't use the hole command here, we drew circles. So I know when I click on this one, this will tell me that it's a diameter 8 and it's 8mm deep. Because if we'd have drilled a hole it would have said diameter 8 through, like the one we've just done, but in this case this is not done. So I know for a fact that when I made this part I didn't use the hole command, I drew a circle and I drew 2 other circles for these and then I cut into the shape. So it still looks right, but again it's just going to look slightly differently. So I'm not going to use hole and thread for that one, I'm just going to press escape. I'm going to grab dimension and I'm going to click on the edge of my circle. I've got to be careful not to click on one of the green dots. So if I click on one of the green dots it'll actually not bring the measurement out because it's waiting for me to click somewhere else. I don't want that, so sometimes you've got to maybe just zoom in a little bit in order to select the right location. So this time we've got rid of our -8 and we're just going to place that on there. Now because I really want this to say something different, and then you're drawing it says the word reamed after it, because after it had been drilled it would have been reamed, which was quite a precise looking drill. So I'm just going to type in after that the word reamed, and we'll see that appear on our drawing. So we can't change these little 4 square brackets or less than and greater than signs. That's just what's telling Inventor to pull out the measurement that you created in the part file. But we can write whatever we want afterwards. We've also got some symbols that we could use afterwards. Again, more on those in maybe a later video. So I can press OK there and that one will set. We can now go around looking at the drawing that you've got in front of you and try and place on all of those dimensions. Now again, there's no right and wrong answer here for how you do them. Again, I'm just going to stick with the dashed lines to begin with. I probably am going to change those as we go a little bit further. Sometimes rather than click on a line you could click on 2 green dots, a little bit like that. And again, sometimes that's really useful when you're trying to go to the center point of something because it'll bring the measurement correctly out. Again, if I zoom in here, I could just click on the line. I've got to be careful, I can't click on those green dots, and that will pull out the measurement. You can see the dashed line there, which is lining it up with one of the other measurements on my page. So we can have a quick check and we think, have we got all those? Yeah, I think we've got all the measurements on there. There is something missing, and there is a centre line drawn on your drawing, or initiated on your drawing that you've got, and we get that centre line from just over here. And again, if I go from the centre of that hole, it will work all the way down to here. It will then place that dot dash line on your drawing, which is a little bit like, it may look like it's extended a little bit more. It will allow you to do that, but we don't need to for this case. Now, that's all right for the right hand side of the drawing. The other bit is actually what it looked like before we started cutting into it. Now, we don't have a part file for that. We've just got the gauge body, we've just got the threaded pin, and we've got the gauge rod. So we'd have to make the part, which is just the rectangle with the 3 holes in, which we could do extremely quickly. So if I just go File, New, Standard Millimeter IPT, we'll do a sketch. Now, if you can't quite remember, this is obviously the video on how to make the parts, and that would tell you the initial bit that we did in this case. Just because we've illustrated it in the video, we'll just have a look at using the hole command here instead. So rather than draw circles this time, because we've got a solid block, I'm going to put 3 points on there, and I will position these up. So we'll just get these into the right positions. So 13, 30, and 47. And we've got some heights to worry about as well, and that one was 14. This one was 13. And then rather than put another measurement on over this side, we'll just use a horizontal constraint between this position and this position. And we've got there a fully constrained sketch. So we'll now go to the hole command. Now, they're not all 13, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control down. I'm just going to click on this middle one, and that will delete that one from having a hole drilled through it, so you can always do that on lots of the different modelling tools here. We've got those set at 13, and we'll just press OK. Now, unfortunately, because we've used that sketch, our little point here has disappeared, so I'll just share that sketch. Now, this is something we did all the way back in exercise 1, I believe, on the video. So again, if you're not sure what I'm doing there, just have a little look back at exercise number 1 video, and that should tell you. So the middle hole is 8. And we'll press OK. So we've now got the part file there. So if I just save that really quickly, and we'll save that as blank. That's done. We don't need to get rid of measurements or anything like that. But if I go to my drawing now, I should be able to now place a view for this as a part. And again, I'll do it as 2:1 as a scale. So we can bring this and try and line it up best we can. Now, I've got 2 different parts here, so this one's not governed where this one is. It's just a separate sketch in this case. What I will do, though, is just double click it, and I will make it shaded just to make it look different to this drawing, so that gives us the texture. And then using the dimension, we can then follow what's on your sheet in order to dimension this up to how it is on your drawing. I've missed my 47 here. I'm just going to have to up my 60mm measurement down, and then pop the 47 on there. Okay, so again, we've got a couple more measurements. We've got as 13, we've got our 14, and we kind of know that this one is in line with this one. If we really needed to, we could pop some centre points on there. So if we just click on the outside of the circle, and that'll give us a centre point. If we really needed to, we could put a centre line on there as well to show that they're at the same height. Okay. Now, a couple more measurements to do on there. This time we can do hole and thread, and we get our 13 through. And we've got the one in the middle, which is going to be an 8mm hole in that case. So it's starting to now resemble what you see on your drawing. We've got a few changes to make. We'll look at those just in the second part of this video.